Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and this is probably one of the oldest reels that I own, and I need to figure out what's going on with this one. This is a 1912 model of a Shakespeare reel, and before, I think it was 1932 or 6, somewhere in there, the model numbers indicated the years that were made. So it says 1912 model, patented 100 yards, WSJ Co. and Kalamazoo, Michigan. Well, this one doesn't work very well, and it's kind of an odd reel. I purchased a lot, LOT, of reels, several. This one came in it, and I wasn't paying much attention to it. But what I did notice here is we have a separation in the spool, right here, which is causing a lousy crank, to say the least. But we also have a separation down here in the reel seat. So I'm not sure if this has been closed up properly or not. And well, we just kind of have to play around with this one, see what we can do to make this thing work. So I'm going to start by taking off the reel. This is kind of an interesting one. It has, if I recall, a couple of screws that kind of go through the reel and anchor into the other side. So when I take these off, I'm going to be careful about this. I'm going to be careful with any reel, but more particularly this one because of the 1912. I mean, this reel's 110 years plus, right? So kind of makes you wonder. Yeah, this is the one that goes through. There's two bars that will go through here, and there's one on a pivot point here. Kind of fun reels. Just leave that one off to the side for a moment. This should come off now. I have the trying to figure out what we got here. I don't want to push anything that I can't push. Now this one normally, it looks like that's, yeah, that screw's just plain stuck in there. That's okay. Let's take this off first to show you what's going on inside. And you know, this is what I was thinking. Isn't that odd, huh? I was thinking that we were going to have a gear wrapped with line that was causing that thing to separate. And sure enough, that's exactly what we have. Very old line. And that's probably what was causing the separation in the case. If it is, I just got lucky and I was able to preserve a very old reel that somebody gave up on. Boy, so it's kind of interesting, right? The channel is Second Chance. It's all about giving reels a second chance. And well, some reels just have to wait a little bit longer than others to get that second chance. All right. Okay, well, I apologize. I just had a visitor and I had to shut the off. So this is a good place to tell you if you are kind of anxious about doing reels, if you're not sure what you're going to find, take pictures because, well, sometimes you have to go answer the doorbell or something, and if that happens, you may lose your track. And I've just lost my track here, but I kind of know where I was going. So we had a horrible mess here with the line tangled around there. I think this one's going to scream. I think we're going to be able to get back to where this should be and have some fun with this reel. Wow. Okay, we want to get in here to take the insides off. In order to do that, we have to complete removing the case. I'm looking at this side. I don't see screws. I see little pivot points. So I'm thinking right now this is going to somehow wiggle off of here. That was easy enough. There's your points, which is great. Because I think what's happening now, remember we said we saw the space down here. I think what was happening was all of that line had bunched up and pushed it out. And that's probably why we didn't have a good seating here. Well, those of you that are always watching my videos will notice I'm not wearing a glove today. I didn't think I was going to kind of get involved to the point where I was going to need to. But it looks like, well, it looks like this horse is going to ride again. And well, we might as well take care of the cleaning while we're at it, to the extent that we can. And again, I'm trying to preserve as much of this patina, if you will. I don't want to go crazy, but this is where all the old greases or tape, I'm not quite sure how they held this on, but whatever it is, it kind of accumulated there. So if I can get that off, all the better. Do the same on this side. Looks like so. If it's on both sides, my guess is it was probably taped to a pole, and that would probably not be uncommon back in the day. I mean, we're talking about a reel here. It's got 110 years on its wear and tear. So who knows? But if reels could talk, right? All right. Well, we just kind of clean that up. We'll put that off to the side. Very nice. I got one more post here. This one accepted that. This gets screwed in here, I believe. So I'm just going to grab a pliers and a little backing and see, because the other one had threads on it. So I think there we go. The other one had threads. That's what I'm kind of matching to here. This can unscrew, and it takes that shield off. There's a little bit of grease and stuff underneath, so a lot of what you want to do when you're maintaining a reel is just simply clean, inspect, get rid of the broken line, and replace, right? All right. So we have a nut here, and we have two screws holding the main gear assembly onto the track. Let's see if I can get this off this way. That doesn't want to cooperate. So what we'll do is shut the camera off yet again and go get the appropriate nut driver for this. If you're working on these reels, remember, a lot of the reels made in the U.S. before all the production got shipped over to China were made with U.S. standard threads. Well, I think I got the right one. Oh, there you go. I think we got it. We do. Hooray. Always worried about breaking studs and things like that. Handle is off. Wow, when you put this in context, this was pre-World War I. Wow, that's crazy. A lot of history has happened, right? All right, well we have one that's loose here, and I'm going to guess this screw got loose because of all of the torsion in the thing. Let's take this bridge screw out, and I apologize if my hands are getting in the way here. And we got one on this side to hold the other piece in. It's a good place to take pictures. We're not quite sure what's going to happen when all of this comes apart, and you want to make sure that you know how it goes back together again. This whole thing should just push out. Now, this is a direct drive reel, and we want to clean the case. There's some appears to be accumulated debris up here. So my guess on this one is after this reel failed, it was probably stored like this, and all the grease that was in the reel puddled to the bottom. Well, I've been ignoring that glove, but I want to put one on now. We got some cleaning to do, and I like to keep that stuff off my hands to the extent that I can. Gloves are cheap. I just use those vinyl exam gloves, whatever they call them. Those of you that watch the channel know I go to flea markets. I find them right there. They're not that expensive for a box of 100. I just like to keep the greases and stuff off my hands. Well, it looks like we also have that grease puddled around where those two studs were for the reel seat. I'm going to scrape the old stuff off. Wipe that down on the towel, get it off my bench. This looks like some kind of a cast control, and I'm looking at the spool, and I'm seeing the ride here, so I'm sure that's probably what it is. There's a tensioner over here, which is kind of odd because I would think that that tensioner would intersect with this. So that one I'm going to leave for a moment. Just let my mind think about that one. I don't think it's out of place. It doesn't appear to be out of place. It doesn't swing. It's tight to the case here. So I'm not quite sure how that adjustment would work there. Have to take a look. This clearly would go in and out more. It would seem to me that this would intersect with that if you wanted to make that adjustable. Well, we're going to leave it. Like I said, most importantly right now is see if we can't restore the function to it. Some of it has to do with cleaning, but most of it has to do with that broken line that was in there. So, can't wait to give this one a try. All right. The case is cleaned about as good as it's going to be able to get cleaned. I've just used a series of sprays with a penetrating oil and Q-tips or cotton swabs, whatever you would like. Here's some more accumulated grease in that little cavity where the reel seat post is going to go in. And let's just take a look. This should just simply be mounted on a post. Yep. That I've seen before on the older reels. Let's clean the old grease off the post. It's amazing. Here's a reel that's as old as it is. The gears are still good. The greases have dried, but that'll happen in a current year model reel. They clean up nicely. The materials are beautiful. And of course Shakespeare is one of the real pioneers. You can use reel both ways with that if you like. R-E-A-L and R-E-E-L. They both work. He was a real pioneer. All right, we've got that done. Check the gears, make sure they're all clean. I'm just going to take a quick bristle brush and pull that through just to make sure. Of course, if anything was chipped, cracked, or broken at this point in time, you couldn't do much with it anyway. All right, a little bit of grease onto the teeth. Those teeth are going to interact with the gear on the spool. A little bit of grease onto the shaft here. Let's go ahead and merge the two back on. Grab the post. Looks like we can put a little bit here that's going to ride through the bushing in the case. And it looks like we can put a little bit onto the inside of that adjuster cap where the spool is going to go. And that should be about all that's needed from a lubrication standpoint. All right, let's get this back on. So one of the things with fishing reel repairs, I always encourage you to be adventurous and curious. It kind of is what's keeping me going. I think it's what got me started, and it kind of always has kept me going. I just have this curiosity about how reels were made, what the histories of them are, how they kind of came together and how they come apart. And well, I love learning about them. I can imagine who was sitting on the assembly line somewhere putting these together in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Who bought it and who had the joy, if you will, of owning that reel first and passing it down maybe, or how it wound up in this batch of reels that I got as a cast-off. I mean, there's just so many little stories that could be told about that, certainly. All right, take our handle and put that back on. Find that nut cap in my parts tray. Find the nut driver for that. Tighten it up. Nothing else expected than spinning like a champ. There's a little bit going on here on cleanup. Not much. Look at the clicker. The clicker even appears that it wants to work here. It looks like there's just a little bit of something stuck in the track here. Let's use our pick to clean that out. Okay, I think for the most part, that's about as good as we're going to get with this. And sometimes the goal isn't to restore the reel. The goal is to kind of leave it in its natural state, as found, if you will, and kind of move from there. Well, this is the case, and I actually kept that one adjuster bar in there because I didn't want to get the orientation wrong on reinstall. Well, it just fell out now, but at least I know which side is facing me. And kind of unfortunately, I lost out on which side is up. Well, we should be able to line them up here. Find the 2 points for the real seat. Those will be below, like that. And what I do recall is I had the 2 adjusters on the sides. If you were wondering, what were you going to do? You're going to go take a picture is what you were going to do. Okay. I would say that's wrong then. That this is correct. There you go. And do I have the sides lined up? I do. Okay, where's the next up on here? I want to make sure that I have these shoulders cleaned here. Because remember, we were offset there. And I have that real seat. That real seat is just going to be inserted here now. And we need to make sure it stays firm and all the way in. Otherwise, we're going to have that same nice snap there, right? So this is the one that had the spacing before. Now we're nice and tight with that. Don't forget the spool. I want to put the spool back in. We're going to put some grease onto that gear and onto where it goes into the adjuster cap. Same thing on this side where it's going to be housed with that adjuster cap. Spool can go in now. I see what's going on there now. Okay. Got ahead of myself. That adjuster that we were kind of wondering about sits underneath the trim ring. That's what's holding that in. I was having a little bit of a self-doubt moment there. Still not seeing how the adjustability on this works. It would seem to me that this should be thrown over so that the spring piece here could work in and out. I'm not seeing that. And when I look on the tab here, it doesn't look like there's a swing. Well, we're going to just leave that. Ha ha ha, look at this. Take pictures. I put the piece in upside down. I make mistakes all the time. One of the things you need to do if you're working on fishing reels is not be afraid. You also need to have a sense of humor. So curiosity and humor goes a long way. Maybe I should have taken my own advice and looked at the picture, right? All right. So I know that this is the gear side now. That's going in. I like the way it's seated in there. It doesn't appear to be pulling out at any point here now. And there's the other error that I made. That belongs on this side. Because I was keeping the other screw one in here. No big deal. Take your time. Don't be afraid of rework. Better to get it right, even if it takes you a second time, than jamming something in there that's incorrect. Should all start coming together now. We should be able to line up these holes that you're going to have to merge in. All right, this one screws in now. These should all fit beautifully, which I'm liking what I'm seeing. We have 3 screws that go next. 2 of these are the screws for the base. I was using a micro screwdriver for that. Use the right tools, particularly on old reels. You don't want to flare or cause an issue with the threading in that on the screws. You won't find them again. hard enough to find a reel. Well, this one found me, but it's hard enough to find replacement parts on many of the current reels and the rest of the old ones. All right, and then we have this long screw. I don't know if this belongs to this reel. It appears to be a replacement screw with a little anchor washer on there. We're going to put it back in because, you know what, it tells some of the story of what's gone on with this reel. All right, we're tight on all of these. We're going to tighten down this one, remember. And let's give it a try. Would you look at that? Holy cow. What a beauty. Nothing like what we had before, right? Now you do have adjusters on this side and this side. You want to make sure that there's a little bit of play, but you don't want to over adjust. And the reason why it's on both sides is you can center the spool. So if you over tighten one side and you had that gap maybe where that line was coming through, you could balance it by pushing back on this side. And then of course the reverse of that as well. Wow. This is one of those little moments where you get excited. This is fun. It's a beautiful reel. It's going to join its partner. I have one up here that I didn't work on. I've left it in its true state. Another Shakespeare reel. This one is the model 1924. So this one is 8 years after that reel. Still turns. I bet you it cleans up just the same. Almost identical manufacturing. The case adjuster screws have changed from the earlier model. But it's pretty much the same one. This one's got a bone on it. This one has got a wooden piece. And looking at the way that this is set up, this is probably a replacement, but boy, it's probably been replaced a long time ago. It's wood, and it appears to have solder on the back of this one, kind of holding whatever that stud is on that. So probably a bush fix along the way, but you know what? That's part of the fun and the history of reels. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching. Have fun with the old reels. Get an education out of them. Buy some and just try to work on them as a tuition reel just to learn from. And who knows, maybe you'll find something really strange and interesting as you go about purchasing some of these. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing all of you a great day and great fishing.